Well, Judge Joe Brown's on Alex's show talking about Bill Cosby. Basically, he's explaining uh, how the pre-crime initiative was set up, and that's exactly what Martha Stewart and Bill Cosby was all about because it was in Pinky and the Brain. Let's bring pudding pops back to life. Yeah, most of those women were prostitutes that came back for more over and over and over again, right? So that's a hacksaw. So what I'm getting at is since that was in Pinky and the Brain, the system was sold to Washington. Hey, we're going to use this system to fight crime, right? We're going to use this system that can hack people's minds and tell us if they're guilty of crimes or not, right? Well, of course, the system figured Bill Cosby was guilty of crimes because in the pre crime initiative cartoon, Pinky and the Brain, which came out when I was 10 years old, by the way, we'll get to that here in a minute. Since he made Pinky and the Brain, and since Martha Stewart made Pinky and the Brain, they were guilty, right? But they didn't understand that the pre-crime initiative of Pinky and the Brain was the symbolism was actually let's wrap ourselves in aluminum foil and act like robots, Pinky. Aluminum, the elemental symbol's AI. So you're foiling an AI takeover, and the AI takeover is to allow the system to hack people to determine whether or not they're guilty of crimes. And if they're guilty of crimes, they'll do what they did to me and put me in a digital prison when I wasn't doing anything. I was very successful down on the bio, and the only thing that I did was mind my own business, and every now and then I would party and, do some drugs once in a blue moon, not very often, by the way. And it wasn't bad drugs. It was like, LSD and mushrooms, which I've already explained all of that. Anybody that thinks those kinds of drugs are bad is a fucking idiot. Okay? They had never done them, A. Cocaine and crystal meth's a bad drug, right? Those are drugs that ruin your life. I didn't do drugs like that. I did the kind of drugs that it didn't show up in a drug test, A. And I could enjoy them on my off time, and whenever I went back to work, I wasn't all fucked up or anything. It didn't mess with my head or anything. I did a really good job. I was really good at what I did all the time. Everywhere I went, I was always doing a good job at what I did. And that's how you end up in a $400,000 house on the bio in the exact same neighborhood that I wanted to live in on the water. Okay? I mean, I wasn't wealthy or anything, but I set myself up to perfection, right? Down on the bio, 314 Palm Drive. Where is exact and Judge Joe Brown just mentioned that about making poor life decisions. Well, people who make poor life decisions don't end up in the exact home they want to live in, not breaking any laws, and being very good at what they do for the company that they work for. And that was exactly what all of my former bosses will tell you. He was one of the best hands we had. They'll tell you that, and that's a fact. And they don't need to know whether what I'm doing on the weekends anyway. It ain't none of their fucking business. If I show up to work and do a good job, then what do you care what I'm doing on the weekends? Even at the once in a blue moon that I might take a hit of acid or something. You see how this system is going to target people who really hasn't done anything wrong, but since it's well, in my case, that didn't even have anything to do with it. They weaponized the system to use me to take out Dan Patrick, and all of the underlying symbolism in there was they're hacking Christian conservatives and pulling the metadata out of their minds with this highly sophisticated technology so they can election meddle, right? And that's how you get Trump in there that tells them everything they want to hear. And most of the things that Trump told them is what they wanted to hear came from my mind. If I very rarely followed politics, but I'd look at the big picture stuff, and everything Trump says that was big picture was exactly the agenda that I would have put on the table if I would have ran for president before he ever even announced that he was running for president. Okay? Not to mention that I didn't mention to anybody about the fact that they used me to take out Dan Patrick. But they knew, and then that's when the whole Russian agent thing came up. He's a Russian agent, right? Seriously? Maybe y'all don't understand the big trap that you fell into It's all in Pinky and the Brain. Martha Stewart, sweatshops. What do you think I've been doing at these emails trying to fight for my freedom while I'm digitally in prison? While I send emails to the Pentagon like, what the hell's the matter with y'all? How come you tortured me and chased me around with black helicopters because the deep state made sure that I got Dan Patrick's fucking phone number and everything was just fine until I had the thought of it. Just had the thought. Oh, they used me to collect Dan Patrick's metadata through the FISA court. Of course, that was all in the news. That was one of the main reasons that I had the thought of it. Because that's what they were talking about. And I'm sitting there listening to that. And it was like 6 months after I had his phone before I even realized that it was Dan Patrick's number. And I go, oh, I see what they did here. They gave me his old number and they got to FISA court. They gave them a warrant so that they could say that I was a Russian agent and collect his metadata. And then they tried to whack me. That's what you call weaponizing the pre-crime initiative system that hacked the entire fucking country's mind. And you know they can use this system to find every missing child in this country. Do you know why they don't do that? Because then they'd have to expose the system that they use to election meddle. And they can't tell the agents at the FBI, the regular old agents at the FBI, you know, the low-ranking agents, they can't say to those agents, hey, we've got a system that hacked the entire country's mind. Get your SWAT team trucks ready. We know where all these missing children are now. They can't tell those agents that, because if they did, then they'll lose the leverage that they have to use that technology for illegal strategies that I'm talking about. They're weaponized it, right? So you got a weaponized system that could be used to find missing children, but since it's being used for wicked purposes, and that's all their leverage, they can't tell anybody at the FBI, we got a system that could find all these missing children and we could just turn y'all loose and you could go find all of them overnight. They haven't done that. Oh, don't be ashamed. Let the wicked be silent in their graves. Oh, don't be ashamed. Let the wicked be silent in their graves. If you have a system that's capable of finding missing children overnight and you don't use it for that system, for that purpose, there's only one reason why you wouldn't use that system for that purpose when it's got that capability. Because they're using it for illegal purposes, to include election meddling. And as soon as the FBI agents find out the capabilities of this system, they're going to figure out even more. They're going to figure out everything that I figured out. They're going to understand that, wait a minute, you mean it can do all of that? What have y'all been using it for? Oh, to election meddle is exactly what they've been using it for. To control people's minds like slaves. Martha Stewart, sweatshops. Yeah, they're FBI agents who's watching my videos. Yeah, you could, actually do your job and for good purposes, but your higher ups won't tell you that, hey, we got a system that literally will tell us where all these missing children are. Well, that's all you need to know right there. So you got Bill Cosby, date rape. I've talked about that, and that's what Judge Joe Brown was just talking about, right? The Secret Service knows what this system's capable of. They know exactly what this system's capable of. And did you know that the Secret Service is actually working an operation right now because their job's to protect the President of the United States of America? And they recently found out that just about every fucking president they've had for the last 30 years was a hack. It's within their lane. That is in the Secret Service's lane right there. In their lane to protect the President of the United States. Well, if the President of the United States is hacked, it's in their lane. Trump's a hack. Biden is a hack. The system is walking them around like puppets. Which means, are you protecting the system or are you protecting the puppet? Because last time I checked, the government that we're supposedly, the Constitution that we're supposedly, that reigns over the country, it's not supposed to reign over us. It's supposed to be power to the people. The constitutional documents and all of that gives the power to the people, not the president, because the people elect the president. So, once the president gets into office, well, then he's got power. But the problem is the system's putting the people into power. So that's not actually an elected president. It's a system installed president. So you're protecting illegitimate presidents to start out with. That's why it's in your lane. So are you protecting the system, or are you protecting the clown that's in there? Which is all you put in there now is clowns. And I think what it is they're trying to let everybody know, hey, politics don't matter in America. We've got a fucking AI system that's controlling everybody's minds. I've explained that in all my videos. So Judge Joe Brown, the Sunday show, Alex has watched my last video. He's really breaking down the legalities of how y'all got conned, because Bill Cosby was having sex and doing drugs with prostitutes. He wasn't date raping anybody. And you're, once again, just like Kavanaugh. Remember Kavanaugh when he was in college and he was running a train on a slut and she kept coming back for more? So he wasn't raping her. So they would do this every weekend in college, right? They'd probably eat some ecstasy, I'm sure, and they would have sex with this slut that would come over, and they'd run a train on her. That's what you call it. It's not gang rape, right? So the system qualified that immediately as gang rape because he didn't get a fair trial. Now the media is the courtroom, right? Now the media is the big courtroom because they're all connected to this collective mind hive that is the pre-crime initiative. And if they think you're guilty of something just because it was in Pinky and the Brain, well, you must be guilty, right? See, the entire operation behind Pinky and the Brain was to prove that this pre-crime initiative was illegal, and the Minority Report explains that. And the COGS set all of you up, right? All Bill Cosby was doing was having sex with hookers, and they tried to take advantage of him later in life. And the reason they did that is because the deep state said, oh, he was in Pinky and the Brain. They said, let's bring Pudding Pops back to life. He must have been date raping them. Well, our system said that's true, so we got to put him in jail. Right? You see how the COGS set you up here? So what really happened is the system's date raping the country. That's the underlying symbolism, under-truthing symbolism, okay? That is the under-truthing symbolism. The real pre-crime initiative was to expose the Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, what's a vine got on? It's a lot of little vines and stuff. Like a collective mind hive of vines. Martha Stewart. Martha, that could be Lockheed Martin, I'm not sure. But sweatshops, right? She was running sweatshops, so she went to jail. You see the underlying symbolism there? So the idea of Pinky and the Brain was to put these fake criminals out there with a symbol, with symbolism in their story, kind of like the Dan Patrick pay-to-play scheme or fire and forget missile, whatever it was. Y'all tried to whack me after I thought about what it was that you were doing. You tortured me for 3 years with electromagnetic technology and sent me to the fucking hospital 6 times with heart attacks and a fucking stroke. Just like Hillary Clinton's suicide victims, right? That's how Hillary gets rid of her friends. She just picks up the phone and goes, hey, could you point the satellite at this guy? He's got dirt on me, and could you whack him? So they point a satellite at the guy and they'll actually drive him into suicide. That's how they do that. They literally take over your mind and make you shoot yourself in the head. Well, they tried to do that to me, but I had DNA that morphs, so they couldn't resonate off of it for very long like they were after they tortured me for 3 years. Right? Of course, I'm Pinky in Pinky and the Brain. So now here's their new story. Here's what they're going to say now, because I'm in this illegal digital prison and they just got to come up with something that makes me guilty of something. Oh, God. They're going to say, he came up with all of this himself because he knows the intricate details of it. Right? That fucking cartoon came out when I was 10 years old. Okay? So are you prepared to tell the world that a 10-year-old schemed all of this up? Because if you are, you might as well call me God at this point. And I'm not saying to, but I'm saying if you're going to tell the world that a 10-year-old schemed up 9/11, schemed up Iran-Contra, schemed up Martha Stewart, Bill Cosby. Read all of those translations that I've given you, which are undeniable. All of the different little things that happened in exact order to the T. unbelievably to the T out of Pinky and the Brain, which forecasted all of this. If y'all want to say that I am the person who was behind all of that, well, now you got to explain to the world that everything that I translated came from a cartoon when I was 10 years old. So y'all going to charge me as an adult? How's that going to work? You're going to charge me as an adult now? Of course, you're not charging anybody with anything, are you? You're just using your illegal digital prison to hack people and lock them up and torture them so they can't even work. I can't even get a job. If I get a job, well, I probably can get a job now because my DNA morphed enough. They can still hammer me, though, with other kinds of technology, like an actual directed energy beam that will fuck everybody in my house up. Right. See, this other technology that they use, they got to have your DNA to resonate off of it. So if you're in a room with 200 people, they can blast a signal into the room and it'll only phase you. That's what they've been doing to people. That's how broad the scope of this system is. I mean, and it's the whole country. 5G towers and satellite systems, quantum computing. So what do you got on me? You need to charge me with a fucking crime is what you need to do. You need to tell the world that a 10-year-old schemed all of this up. Why don't you go ahead and tell the world that I was the oracle or the cog that schemed all of this up when I was 10 years old? I schemed it all up when I was 10 years old. The whole thing. 9/11, the whole 9 yards. It's all right there in Pinky and the Brain, and it all came right out of my mind when I was 10 years old. Sir, did you put together a ecstasy cult when you were 10 years old? Yeah, well, you know, when I was 10, I heard my sister talking about ecstasy once, overheard her on a phone conversation in her room. I was like, ecstasy? Huh, and she was talking about how good it was and everything. I was like, dang, sounds like heaven, you know? She was talking about how good it was. Then I went to Bible study and they told me about Jesus, and I was like, huh. Well, maybe those little pills of ecstasy are Jesus, right? Of course, then Pinky and the Brain comes out. I was about 8 years old, I think, when that happened. Maybe I did scheme that up. Huh. Yeah, you can blame me for that one. Yeah, come arrest me for scheming up an ecstasy cult when I was 8 years old. That'd be great. I'm looking forward to it. Because that's your case right there. The whole case that you have on this brilliant oracle who fucked all of you, basically bent all of you over and raped you, schemed all of this up when I was 10 years old. Huh. I don't know, Judge Joe Brown. Should they be able to charge me as an adult now that I'm over 10? You know, I joined the Army when I was 17, and 9/11 happened about 3 months later, or about 8 months later, I think, or a year later, when I was 18, because my migraines went away. And when I started to kind of get a migraine that never really produced itself, it just kind of fizzled out. It was a dud. Immediately after that, 9/11 happened. Huh. Last time I checked, you can't just get rid of migraines magically, Army. And last time I checked, I took a whole bunch of shots at MEPS. And those migraines just kind of disappeared. So whose lie is bigger? Is my lie bigger for lying about my migraines before I joined the Army? Or is or whoever told y'all to pump us full of these shots that link us up to different satellite systems? Maybe their lie was bigger. Because I don't mind admitting to the FBI, which I always wondered. There was 2 questions the FBI asked me right before I shipped out, because you got to sit down with an FBI agent, and they ask you a series of questions. 2 of the questions that they asked me were, have you ever had migraines, and have you ever taken LSD? Well, I was high on LSD at that very moment, FBI, because I was like, I'm going to get high one more time before I go to the Army. Maybe that's what the emergency was. Maybe my little ride-along buddy realized when they started drug testing me in the Army that we weren't going to be able to get high anymore. Could have been that. But I want to know for sure, their FBI, how in the world did you know to ask me if I had migraines and if I had ever taken LSD? And that was like 2 of the 5 questions you asked me while I was sitting there before I joined the Army. And those were 2 very critical questions to have asked me because I lied about both of them. But how did you know that, FBI? You some part of a deep state mind hive, and y'all had already connected me to an illegal mind hive when I was a child, which is basically pedophilia. Yeah, when you hack a child's mind and you control them to your will like a slave, that is pedophilia. What do you think all of this pedophilia stuff's about, right? That's exactly what it's about. You're hacking children. Polio, political input output. Global puppeteering system, or the GPS system. Iran-Contra. So are you ready to tell the world, if you come here and arrest me for terrorism, that I planned all of this when I was 10 years old? That's the question you need to be asking yourselves. Because I'm ready to admit to all of it. Let me tell you what Lockheed's trying to rub your face in right now, Washington. They want to know why, yes, this is a yes, they want to know why you're not using the system they sold you to find missing children. And they also want to know why you're using it, CIA. Did you know that Lockheed, they designed all of that technology, right? You know that, right, CIA? You know they left back doors open to every fucking piece of equipment they ever sold you? So did the Light in the Air, who sold it to Skunkworks, or gave the idea to Skunkworks so it could use it to gain power. But what I'm getting at is Lockheed is asking you, Washington, would you rather be buying the guns or selling them? Once they turn that technology over to you, Washington, that it doesn't belong to them anymore. Let me put it to you this way. If I sell a gun to a supposedly a decent person, let's say I sell a gun to a supposedly a decent person, right? Everybody respects the guy that I sold the gun to, right? And then that guy goes to my neighbor's house and starts robbing them. So I go over to my neighbor's house with a shotgun and I blow that guy's head off. You think anybody's going to be mad at me for selling the gun that everybody respected? Selling the gun to somebody that everybody respected after I saved my neighbor from being robbed from the guy that I sold the gun to? No, I don't think anybody's going to be mad about that, Washington. So basically, that's what's taken place. You were using this system for illegitimate purposes. Lockheed Martin knew you were going to do exactly that because they've got other technology that can actually see the future, not to mention the great Oracle whose mind they hacked when I was a child. They knew you were going to weaponize the system. So now they're blowing your brains out. Would you rather be buying the guns or selling them? So see, that's what I'm trying to get at there, Church of Christ. That's how you got to look at it. This is a system that can find missing children just like that. They've already hacked their minds with it. Okay, Lockheed Martin designed it. They sold it to Washington. They can literally see the future. All right, they're using relativity. They're using quantum computing. It's undeniably amazing that what the capabilities of this technology is. But of course, all the bought and paid for goons in Washington said, "Oh well, hell, CIA, hey." Why don't you use that to get me elected every year? I'll just be one of your niggers. Well, see, I'm not going to be your nigger, CIA. And I'm not going to be Washington's nigger. No, I'm going to explain to people what this system could actually be used for and possibly save the system their third chance guard. You see how that works? So you kind of want to guard the system that can find missing children, but what you want to do is don't be ashamed. Let the wicked be silent in their graves, right? Because the system is hacking people's minds, which most people are going to be pissed off about that. When they find out that they were using the system to control our minds, everybody that's had a loved one lost in a car wreck in the last 10 years, 20 years, is going to be mad at the government, not God, right? And that's why they want to quell what's going on here as much as possible. But what they didn't realize is the scenario that Lockheed Martin's in right now. I sold them a gun, and they're robbing y'all with it. So I was smart enough to leave a back door open to it to make sure that when they started doing that, we can clean house. And that's literally what took place. And I am a Skunkworks political scientist, one of the only ones they ever had. And I started when I was 10 years old. Watch Marcellus blow the balls off of the pawn shop cop, the rent-a-cop in Pulp Fiction. Just YouTube Marcellus shotgun scene or whatever it was. Butch is Kevin Shipp, who used to work for the CIA. Supposedly, I think Kevin's got a legitimate story there. They waterboarded his entire family when he started exposing the CIA. And Kevin thought that Lockheed Martin was going to, be after him. Then he realized when I got in contact with him and broke down the water, he was like, "Oh, yeah, Kevin." So Marcellus has the shotgun in his hand right now, and he's about to blow the pawn shop cop's balls off, right? See how the great Oracle put all of this into perspective for everybody there, Kevin? So grab that samurai sword and start chopping these people's heads off because they're still raping me. Oh, and Operation Vigilant Eagle, who is, I'm convinced, even in your own paperwork, it says to target. General Portreas can explain what that means. Target veterans who served in combat because they're considered extremists after you sent them to fight in pointless wars. So your system's targeting veterans who served in combat because you don't want them in the way when you get ready to make your move. So your system was told by the government, to attack them in advance while you prop up Black Lives Matter and Antifa. You're electromagnetically murdering your own veterans who fought in pointless wars. Now, why do you think we fought in pointless wars? You think maybe they wanted to get the patriots on the target list through legislation because the system follows the legislation? And when the legislation says to attack a veteran who fought in a pointless war, it does it. Saddam Hussein. You see the big trap that was laid there? You're all about to die, you fucking niggers. Technocrat, transhumanist, political trash is what the new age nigger is. Has nothing to do with race. Go fuck yourselves. In that dragnet pagan scene, and with, what is that, Belushi and Tom Hanks? One of them's Alex Jones, the Tom Hanks is me. Remember when I rammed all of those tabs of ecstasy down the snake's throat? Yeah, I planned that when I was 10 years old too. I'm going to put a link down in the description too for this new movie. Spielberg, he's my sword. He's the Oracle sword. But I'll put that down in the description. It's the name of it's AI, Artificial Intelligence. I think that's exactly how you put it, AI, Artificial Intelligence. But I'm not sure, so I'll put the link down in the description. That's another movie you want to watch. I'm Martin in that movie, and the drone kid, the mecha, is what they call it in the movie, is whatever that is that they put into my mind. And then there's a teddy bear in that movie too. So that's how you get 3-in-1 oil. Spielberg just wanted to let me know he did a little research himself, so he kind of put that in there. So, you got Sputnik, then Martin, and then the Mecca is whatever that is, okay? So, watch that movie there, Third Chance Guard. The Mecca is the new age nigger, basically everybody in Washington. And the media, by the way, and the media. They're a unit. That movie coincides with the other movie, They Live. I think you probably already watched that one. I think the little mecha boy in the AI, Artificial Intelligence Spielberg movie is DeepMind, which is a quantum computer that I'm linked up to. I think. If it's not, it's another quantum computer. So they're giving quantum computers shoes, right? That was the hacky sack shoes in Pinky and the Brain. That episode where they talked about the hacky sack shoes. So that's further explained in my Swords production there, AI, Artificial Intelligence. You can find the link down in the description. Watch it. I was also told when I was a child by the Light in the Air that at some point we're going to have to curb the population trend, and I was like, I don't want to kill anybody. And the Light in the Air was like, well, just follow my lead. And so I was following the Light in the Air's lead. And the Light in the Air was showing me all these different evil schemes that it was doing and everything. And I was like, this is too evil for me. I just want to party, you know. I just want to mind my own business. I mean, we can hang out at the fence line and everything. And then I realized what took place is the Light in the Air installed the system and wanted to curb the population trend. So what's the best way to do that? Well, you give it to people who are going to do wicked stuff with it, and you let them do it, and you set them up while they're doing their wicked stuff with it. So you separate the wicked people from the holy people. And then when the holy people find out that you could use this system to find every missing child in the world, basically, well, the holy people will say, hold up. You mean all of these wicked people were not doing that with the system? Oh, well, I don't feel the least bit bad about murdering all those assholes now, right? So all the holy people will be like, yeah, let's just whack all these motherfuckers, right? So I was like, I see what you did there, Light in the Air. So yeah, I've been, kicking the hacky sack around with the Light in the Air for a long time. And yeah, well, hell, Light in the Air might be God. I don't know. But basically what he did was give us a system that would protect the holy people after the holy people find out what the wicked people did with the system, and the holy people kill all of the wicked people. I think that's when Jesus kind of rises up out of the tomb there, right? I think that's how that works, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I am. That's exactly how it works. So basically, the Light in the Air figured out for me how to curb the population trend and still be able to sleep at night. That's why like I said, those states that are bringing back death by firing squad so that I can travel around the country and put the bullet in their head myself. That's what that's all about. Because the Light in the Air knew that I would do that if I understood everything that had taken place. Like I said, the fourth horseman's a cowboy, and God put a telephone in a cow turd. Huh. The saddle with the cowboy hat on the front of it the other day was a nice touch. I caught that. That was nice. Yep. Well, somebody, see, that's what's scaring them more than anything. Don't worry. You ain't got anything to worry about. I've got a Meteor cannon, and I've got USOC, who is going to ensure that y'all don't have anything to worry about. But yeah. It's a nice touch. I like that. The reason that I'm retarded in Forrest Gump and Pinky and the Brain and all these other movies, because when I was a kid, I'd say, after somebody would call me retarded because I was like autistic, they'd call me a retard, and I'd be like, you want to go home and tell your mom that a retard kicked your ass? Plus, it's nice to be retarded when they're going to try to say that a 10-year-old set all of them up with this somehow as mystical powers. They're not going to take into account the quantum technology and the satellites that are in outer space that I was linked to because I was their beta test, and their beta test broke it off in their ass. And the reason that I was their beta test is because I had migraines, and the spirit in the sky made sure that I was the beta test, right? You see how that works? So, that's what that satanic Jesus is all about. So, yeah. You want to go home and tell your mom that a retard kicked all of your asses? Well, that's what you're going to have to do. Oh, and by the way, for all of you that have the heads-up display that allows you to see me screwing Sushi Q, doggy style. Sushi Q, that's kind of like the black girl that snorted cocaine off my dick that had pigtails. The one where I'm screwing Sushi Q is I'm screwing the pooch. Get it? Yeah, I conjured that up too, just for y'all. That message is for all of the Georgia Guidestone folks, the technocratic elite who were going to genocide the world down to 500 million people, so that you could use this technology to live forever because you got life extension technology. So that's how I cooked up screwing the pooch. For those of you who are wondering, like, what the hell is he talking about? The media in this cult has heads-up display, these transhumanist technocrats. So when you close your eyes, it's like having well, I can see it with my eyes open, but it's like having television right in front of your face. It's an electromagnetic hack of your cerebral cortex and your thalamus. And they can literally drive this signal into the entire hive's mind, and I'm like the root hub of the hive. And they've all been kind of wondering, why was he screwing a pooch? Or why was he screwing a dog, right, named Sushi Q? Well, because I was screwing y'all's pooch. Media comes from the Medea, which is like some sort of Greek goddess or something. The illusionist. That's how they got the word media. It came from Medea, M-E-D-E-A. So Su Shi Q would be the modern day goddess of the illusionist. And Su Shi, right? Su Shi. So y'all are going to be sued for hacking my mind, A. And that's quantum technology. And after we sue you, we're going to use the modern day media for something good instead of your demonic nigger cult, which you always use your mind hive for something really bad, right? So that's when, like I said, Jesus rises out of the tomb. Or King Khufu, the mummy from Pinky and the Brain, resurrecting the mummy, however you want to do it. In Pinky and the Brain, they woke up the mummy to kick the snakes out of the pyramid. Well, the mummy's pretty savvy.